Good afternoon to you. Mark Suttoth, HurricaneTrack.com here. Hurricane Outlook and Discussion time. No, it's not hurricane season anymore in the Atlantic Basin, but it is still hurricane or tropical cyclone season over in the Western Pacific, and that is what we're going to focus on here for the next couple of days, and that is this typhoon out here known from the JMA, I think it would be, as Typhoon Kammuri, and from the Philippine area of responsibility, Typhoon Tisoy or Tisoy, I don't know, Tisoy. I will refer to it as Kammuri because that's easier for me to say, but it is in the area of responsibility now of the Philippines, and that is where this will be tracking. The latest satellite imagery here, not the best developed typhoon, which is obviously great news, but it is getting better organized, very cold cloud tops. And remember, typhoons and hurricanes are the same exact thing, and they just occur in different basins of the world. Back to the map here in just a moment, or for just a moment. This region, they are called hurricanes. In the Western Pacific, they are called typhoons. In the South Pacific down here around Australia, they're called cyclones. Same for this area, Indian Ocean, Bay of Bengal, etc. So this is a typhoon. And the only difference is it's in a different part of the world. They rotate counterclockwise. They have a warm core. They bring storm surge, rain. You know, they're just usually more intense in the longer term. You go back and look through history, typhoons are typically more intense because they have a vastly larger area of ocean to work with fewer land masses until they get west and impact areas like the Philippines or Japan, or sometimes Taiwan and mainland China, maybe even parts of Southeast Asia from there. In this case, Typhoon Kammuri headed towards the Philippines here, so that will be my focus today, tomorrow, and into Tuesday. So here's a tweet here from Tony Bright, who is a meteorologist who follows these types of things very closely, and this tweet is very pertinent. That those in the path, and you can see how he recognizes both of the names here depending on which agency and which area of responsibility. It's kind of confusing, but whatever. So he says, those in the path of the typhoon should be prepared for a very powerful typhoon. It's continuing to consolidate with the apparent development of an eye wall and a warming eye, surrounded by very deep convection that's exploding around the low-level circulation. And he mentions further that, as he talked about previously, the ocean and atmospheric conditions are such that it will be passing over very high upper ocean heat content just as it is about to make landfall there in the Philippines. So it's got about 36 hours to go at the most, probably closer to 30 hours, I would think, and that is plenty of time for this to continue to consolidate and become stronger. And as Tony alludes to, that next 12 to 18 hours is critical, and it'll be passing over that one little strip there of very high upper ocean heat content, meaning that that warm water, that 80 degrees Fahrenheit or higher, is not just at the surface, but it extends, in some cases, more than 100 meters deep, more than 300 feet deep, into the ocean. So it can just churn up more warm water as it goes along. So there's the satellite imagery of it, and that's the animation showing the infrared temperatures. So those pinks and purples or whatever, those are high cloud tops approaching 80, 90 Celsius below, minus 80 and 90 Celsius below zero there. And in some cases, maybe even I've seen a few instances of a minus 100 Celsius. And that means that the typhoon is pushing those thunderstorms up all the way into the stratosphere, bumping up against the stratosphere. Very, very cold, deep convection. And that's what runs the engine of these powerful storm systems. Now, there's another way that you can look at these systems, thanks to amazing man-made technology here. This is great. Using microwave and different frequencies along the microwave channels, you can kind of peer through, just like in medicine. We can look through the human body, and you come in and you say, oh, I don't feel good. I've been having some pain here or there, whatever it is, whether it's a bone injury or some type of a growth inside of you, malignant or benign or otherwise. The only way to know that, usually, is to do some type of medical version of what we're looking at here, and that is to look through the clouds like we look through the skin and through the soft tissue of a human or an animal in zoology or whatever, and you get to see what lies beneath. And in this case, the wonderful technology that exists out there now shows us a very well-developed core now. Well, it's making progress, put it that way, with an eye wall trying to develop around the eye there. So this will be helpful to track over the coming, 24 to 30 hours. And you see, I mean, clearly it's got the banding going on, this core developing. There's the center of circulation. And this is where my interests are, right over here in the Philippines. I'll explain a little bit more about that in a moment. This is one perspective. Here's another. Again, and let me just get these lined up properly. You can see it is starting to develop a more closed appearance. It's not there yet. It still has some work to do, to be sure, but it is making progress, which is bad news for those in the path. But again, the Philippines, this is nothing new. Many, many eons gone by of dealing with typhoons and super typhoons coming out of the western Pacific, but each one is different and each one presents challenges for those that live along the coast. Now, I am very interested in this because my colleague, Brent, who works with me out of, there he is there, we'll back this up. We are there, and I say we, I am in North Carolina, working with Brent. That's this guy right here. Get the light on him. He is in the Philippines. He has got HurricaneTrack technology with him. That's what we call it. We've taken off-the-shelf products like GoPros and Kestrel sensors, and in some of the cases, especially with the GoPros, we have modified them and other equipment that we use to study hurricanes. You remember our Hurricane Michael video? If you haven't seen that, extraordinary. Hurricane Florence and others going back actually about 14, 15 years as our unmanned camera project has evolved. So now it's to the point where Brent, in this case, was the one from our group that decided to go. So he is armed with 2 unmanned camera systems. Of course, he has handheld cameras, a little Osmo, OSMO. It's a little small gimbal 4K recording device. He's got his iPhone, of course, and a handheld GoPro. But there's only so much a human being can do. Everybody is vulnerable. Brent, myself, Josh Morgerman, James Reynolds, Jim Eds, anybody can be killed by these things, so you have to be careful. Also, it affords the opportunity to be in several places at once. So here's Brent. He did this update back at about 6:30 p.m. Philippines time last night. He's about 13 hours ahead of me, so it's kind of confusing. But let's just roll this and you'll get to hear what he said.
Good evening. Brent here with HurricaneTrack.com. We just arrived in Tabaco City. That is a Bicol region of the Philippines. This is the ferry port for the boat to Catanduanes Island. The plan was for tomorrow to catch the ferry to the island. Recently today, the Philippine government issued a Signal 2, which is, I think, like the watch warning they have for hurricanes and tropical storms. And that meant that they officially closed down the port. We just spoke with the security, and the ports have been closed, so there is no way to get to the island. So, going to reassess tonight and figure out a new plan in the morning. All right, everyone have a good evening, and I will see you tomorrow.
All right, so there you go. That's Brent's situation from last night, Philippines time. He's hopefully sleeping right now. So going back to my presentation, first of all, the Euro here, I want to take a look. We can look at models of the Euro, the GFS, the HWARF, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter now. Now it's closing in, so we're going to just look at one particular model and its forecast, if you want to call it that. I mean, it's output, whatever. The model doesn't make the forecast. Humans do. The model is just an interpretation using numerical weather prediction as to what would happen inside the model's world. And in this case, the European model, the ECMWF, painting the picture here that Kammuri will make landfall very close to this island, Catanduanes Island, however you pronounce that. And in the next year or so, within the next year, actually the next 6 months, I'm going to work on learning how to say these places. That's going to be a big assignment of mine. As a geographer, I am a degreed physical geographer. I'm not a meteorologist. I am a geographer. I know a lot about meteorology, but I also should know a lot about maps, but I don't know everything. And neither do meteorologists. They don't know everything. That's why we continue to learn every day. Anyhow, it's heading in. Euro showing about a 923 pressure, indicating quite a period of rapid strengthening. And here's the island that Brent was going to try to get to, Catanduanes, however you pronounce that. But there's this gulf right here to the south and west of that island, and that is what I am most interested in. So if we look at the Google Earth shot here of the Philippines, the typhoon is currently located generally out in this area, moving off just around west, maybe slightly west-northwest. West is 270 degrees. We'll be able to track it a lot better once the eye clears out. But this is the area that I am most concerned with in terms of impacts. Obviously, this island here, Catanduanes Island. Oh boy, I hope I'm even close to pronouncing it right. And then you've got this little gulf right in here, and I'm going to zoom in on that. And this is of particular interest and concern for me. Lagunoi Gulf, or however you pronounce it. This is interesting if the center, if the core were to move a little bit more to the south, as the Euro is suggesting, maybe in through here, then that counterclockwise wind flow could push a tremendous amount of water up into the head of this gulf here. And that could pile up the water several meters, and that could be obviously a big problem. There's something else that I hope jumps out at you. And if you know your maps and how to look at a physical relief map, you know what these are right here, don't you? And do you know the history of the Philippines? It is a volcanic island, or series of islands, and these are volcanoes in here. And that's a big problem, because what do these volcanoes have? And don't say lava. They have slopes, okay? And that means that they are steep. Volcanoes are a typically young feature on our planet. It takes them many, many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years to erode down. And so these are still some pretty fresh volcanic peaks in the scheme of things. And what lies in the path of the typhoon? These volcanic peaks. They go up. They will wring the moisture out. We call that orographic lift. So the rainfall on the windward side of these peaks down here could be extreme. And then you've got this coastal highway, which is what Brent will be using, and his driver, Angelo. And that's a really, really big problem. But it also presents us in the world of science. And we're not just doing this for the thrill of it. Make no mistake. My mission is science, education, awareness, and documentation. And using video to document is a great idea. And I'm fully behind that. The work of other storm chasers, as long as they do it safely and don't, well, if they put themselves in harm's way, that's their business. They're all grown-ups, and that goes for me. But as long as they don't have other people trying to come rescue them, that they then put them into harm's way, I have a problem with that. That is why we use unmanned camera technology. That being said, here's a spot that I am thinking about having Brent put one of the camera systems right here on the southwest side of this gulf, and in particular at a little town or village, whatever you want to call it in here. How do you pronounce that? It's like Joron, 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 something like that. There's a school down here. But look, this is a delta right here. This is where the Joron River empties in. It's got this sediment delta. This is that gulf I was talking about. Never mind the fact that the typhoon could bring typhoon conditions there, storm surge, wind, etc., over hurricane force, 74 miles an hour or higher. Yes, those are hazards. What I am interested in is all of this relief that you see in here. That's what we call it in geography, this elevation. That the orographic lift, the rain falling on these mountains, these hillsides, Yes, it's like rainforest, it's dense jungle, but we're talking many, many, many inches of rain over a very, very short period of time, relatively speaking, and that's going to flood these valleys. And look at this. The Gironde River Valley comes right down into that city. Gironde, or it's probably something different. It's probably Joron or something. I don't know. That's so frustrating because I want to say it right. Anyhow, I'm going to see if I can get Brent to come to this location, and in particular, this bridge right here. And the beauty of the world that we live in now, with all of our problems, and yes, as humans we do have problems, this is remarkable. I can scout out where I want Brent to set up the camera. And I want him to put the camera right here on one of these supports. He can strap it and look up the river towards that elevation area. All that rain is going to fall across this area, and then there's the delta that heads out into the Gulf out in the distance there. It spreads out. You can see it's a small village, right? It's not like it's built up like Miami or Honolulu or, Fort Lauderdale or something. This is susceptible, and I would suspect if he can get that GoPro secure here, and it'll run for about 24 hours, high definition video, that we will see a tremendous amount of water coming down this river and eventually emptying into the Gulf down there. But I want him to face it upstream to capture that, if at all possible. So that's going to be a very, very big priority of mine from a research perspective. We won't be able to watch it live, and we just got to hope that bridge doesn't get taken out. It's a risk that he could lose the camera, but for the sake of science and understanding this process, I believe it is a risk worth taking because it's only a camera system, all right? Brent cannot stand there, for 20 hours and film this. He just simply can't do it. Even if he was invincible and was not susceptible to death, he still wouldn't do that, trust me. And then the rest of the Gulf down here is susceptible to storm surge, depending on the track. I don't know where Brent will be himself. We're still working on that. As you can see, there's a lot of real estate around this Gulf area since he cannot get over to the island over here. Catanduanes, I guess that's how you say it. He can't get out there. I won't say he can't, but the official way to get out there is not available. If he gets somebody to take him over via boat, we'll see. I'll be in touch with him. But this is the area that I am most concerned with in terms of impact and studying this typhoon as it comes in. Of course, it'll spread high surf, storm surge, etc. on these east-facing, not so much here because this island will block that, but certainly up into the head of the Gulf here, all the heavy rainfall over the interior portions, and then eventually a lot of interest, as you would imagine, to the north and west. Yes, there will be heavy rain and windy conditions in the big population area of Manila, and then all the way through the peninsula region down here as this spreads across. A major impact system as this moves across this entire region. Now it's just a matter of how strong will it get when it gets there. And the Euro here again suggesting that maybe, just maybe, it really starts to intensify there. This would be valid at 12Z Zulu time, or UTC, which is 7 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow, Tuesday, right? Something like that, or is it tomorrow? I swear. So this is Monday. Yeah, so Monday morning, which is 13 hours later. Yeah, so it would be about, about 8 p.m. or so, just after dark in the Philippines tomorrow. So almost towards Tuesday Philippines time. It's crazy, isn't it? So yes, this is valid December 2nd at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time, or 7 a.m. Eastern Time. 13 hours later is 8 p.m. Philippines time. At least I think I got that part right. And it would still be just offshore, the center of circulation about right there, according to the European model here. The island here taking the brunt of that, if this is correct. And then it's a matter of, does it move west into that Gulf? And if so, I think either way, my idea of at least one camera there on the Gironde River, however you pronounce it, is a great plan. In addition to the camera systems that Brent has, both the unmanned and the handheld for documentation purposes, we do have 2 pressure sensors that he has taken with him, and these are the same pressure sensors we use in hurricanes. Now, I want to make a quick comment about what this means, okay? I have studied hurricanes for the better part of 2 decades, 2.5 decades now. It's my career. This is what I do. Expanding into other parts of the world would be a wonderful next step. And I think this is going to be the first steps towards that journey. And we call it the Hurricane Highway. It's a metaphor. Many hundreds of thousands of miles over my career driving around, documenting hurricanes and capturing meteorological data. Time to expand. So Brent's work in person with my guidance, and then all of us helping him on the backside of things through our crowdfunding site at HurricaneTrack.com and our Patreon, we're working together, and I think this is going to be the first step towards working in the Philippines down the road to the point where we eventually can have equipment shipped out ahead of time that will just permanently live there. And we're going to work on that. We're developing contacts. This is how you do it. And so we would get to the point that in the future, I will be there in person, and we will set up anemometer systems, the same ones that we use for hurricanes. And I'm not talking about something you buy at the store. We're talking about these high-end meteorological sensors that withstand 200-mile-per-hour wind or higher. They use them in tornado research. They're on the buoys out in the Atlantic and in the Caribbean on the hurricane buoys, and we have them ourselves. Even just one of those in the Philippines would be incredible. And the way that we can do it now with miniaturization of technology, yes, I think it's possible. So this is a great first step, and I really appreciate Brent funding this himself. Part of his effort in our Patreon, our crowdfunding, but it's not just the money. It's the information and the resources and the awareness and the education and the contribution to science. And that's what HurricaneTrack is all about. That's what I've done ever since I started this. I've always been about that. So very happy to do this, and I hope we can contribute something that helps in the future. We shall see. All right, so I'll do another update early in the morning, Monday morning East Coast time, and by then it'll just about be time for this to be getting on in there. So we'll see. All right? I'll also be posting frequently on Twitter right here. And for those of you on Patreon, I'll be posting updates, exclusive video content, etc. for you guys. All right? That is it from me. I am Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. Follow on YouTube, subscribe, hit the notification button so you get notified when I post a video. And the same with Twitter. I will be posting on Twitter frequently. We wish Brent the best of luck, as well as to his driver, Angelo, and all of the Filipinos out there. We're trying to bring our brand of how we track these things to your area and do something useful with it, and we'll be right there with you, all right? I'm here thousands of miles away. Brent is there, but we're all there in spirit, aren't we? Have a great rest of your Sunday. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with more for you tomorrow.